far as the water fund goes, you'll see here's kind of a trend of your revenue and expenses over time. You can see, as I mentioned before, this year there's a pretty good rise in your capital expense this year. You had several water projects, the well project, the new well project going into that to raise that up. So you can see revenue has kind of had a pretty steady incline as you would expect. And really your regular other expenses are kind of rising along with that, and you can see the only spike is really in that special capital expense. The net position, obviously, as those projects get to completion, they really don't break down the net position. It doesn't reduce your net position. You're really just contributing to that net position. And so it continues to rise even though you had higher expenditures than normal. So it's your net position continues to rise in the water. You can see the capital projects fund actually decreased. The amount reserved for capital projects kind of decreased because you did spend some of it, and it actually goes into your regular operating net position. In the sewer fund, you can see the sewer fund, it is a pretty steady revenue source. It rises slightly, but not massively. Not a bunch of capital activity within the sewer projects this year. And so it's kind of over the last few years, you can see it's been pretty steady. No real spikes. In 2013, that spike, as far as expenditure was, you guys paid off some bonds in that year. So that's why that year went up quite a bit, is you guys refinanced some bonds at that time, paid off a major one, so the expenditure comes out all at one big shot. So that's that spike there. Kind of we talked about, so this here's just kind of a outline of the net position as it continues to rise, and you guys are setting away some money for future capital projects, so that continues to grow here, as you can see. Sanitation fund, as you can see, the expenditures in the sanitation fund, as the new kind of agreements with Latos Sanitation have kicked in, there has been some additional costs there, and you guys have budgeted for that, the revenues there as well, and so the fee increases have covered that. You can see the net position as far as just regular sanitation has stayed fairly steady. You are putting away some money for future projects in that arena and have been able to do so. As far as just some financial highlights across the board, the city's government-wide net position had about a 6.6% increase this year. It went up by about $7 million to a total of 104 from about 97 last year. A lot of basically this is split about 50-50 between governmental and the water sewer garbage. The water sewer garbage's climb has been due to the increase in revenues, along with the major projects that were completed and started in this time frame. The governmental, basically it's, as we talked before, we saw the increases there and as revenues continue to rise. But you are stocking away a little bit for future capital outlay was one area where you reserve some money. And so a lot of that increase isn't necessarily that more money went into the unaccounted or the unreserved coffers. A lot of it was set aside for future capital outlay. And you can see there that next line, a restricted fund balance of $3,300,000. That's in your governmental projects. Of that $3 million that's set aside, $85,000 is for future debt payments. $293,000 is highway user tax, has restrictions on what you can spend that for, and then $3 million, the remaining $3 million, $2.94 is for future parks and rec projects. That were basically money that you received from the Hamilton estate that is still set aside for future use. You can see that here's a list. I won't go through each of them. Here's some of your major construction projects that went into place this year. Some of it is still construction in progress. Some of it's been capitalized and completed. But so those are some of your major accomplishments this year. Basically on the business, the enterprise side, the water sewer garbage, your restricted fund balance has about $14,700,000. And the primary purpose of that, it consists of 13 for water, sewer, and sanitation capital projects, and 1.6 for the bonds that are still outstanding for future debt payments. You can see you had two major water projects that I kind of mentioned before, the water well being one and the booster station being the other, and that's primarily the biggest capital outlay expense that occurred in the water fund. You can see there at the bottom, total government-wide operating expenses were up a little bit in this current year for those items. So still within kind of the general area of where you have been spending, but up slightly. On the governmental side, the general fund, obviously, probably one of your more important items to track your general operating fund. You can see your revenue has steadily increased as your expenses have increased. You can see there was a pretty significant jump over the last couple years in just general government, and that is those transfers primarily that I talked about for projects, Parks and Rec, and other capital projects that the general fund is supplementing, I guess. So here's kind of basically what falls into general government expenditures. These are all of your, I guess, areas of expenditure: your legislative, your executive, your admin, finance, legal, human resources, and just general buildings and grounds, community development, and then just other non-departmental, and that's where the transfers and other commissions between funds fall. The public safety, this is your police and fire and other public health services. And here's kind of some, basically here's your public safety and your general government expenditures, kind of where they fall. So engineering, fire control, prevention. Police obviously is your largest public safety expense. A lot of that being just salaries and those type of items. You can see all of those have kind of steadily risen over time, as you would expect, no major spikes. On the governmental side, you can see, like we mentioned, the non-departmental general on the 2015-16 have increased significantly in 15 and 16, and those are almost all of those increases are the transfers to the Parks and Rec and the projects fund for capital projects that have occurred.
If I may?
Yeah.
So is that the Hamilton Fund? Is that what we're talking about?
Is it the Hamilton? Some of it is the Hamilton Fund. Some of it is the agreement with the school district. For,
which is the Hamilton Fund?
Which is, yeah.
Okay.
And the
airport fund.
And the airport, okay.
Yeah. Then, as far as what falls under the culture and rec, obviously it's pretty self-explanatory. All of your parks and rec facilities, and is including the art as well. You can see here kind of this falls under the same realm as I was talking about with the water bonds. 2013 shows a large amount there, and there's two reasons for that. One being that you refinance some debt in there, and that's in the Parks and Rec fund. And then the Hamilton expenditure there was really large that year, because I believe that's part of the baseball fields is where a lot of that money came from in that year. Yeah, 1.8 million. So that's the spike in 13. You saw those two items that really kind of skew from the other years. And you can see 14 had a little bit of carryover with regards to that Hamilton. As far as the street fund goes, you can see the street fund, it does get supplemented from other sources. Transfers help kind of keep this fund going. And so the revenue here, you can see another spike in expenses, and you did do several street project funds this year, is why this was an increase over 15 and 16. So with that, I'm going to kind of let you chew on that, and if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask them at this time.
Questions for Nick?
Well done. Comment, I guess.
Yep. Walter had his answer. Jim, how about you?
Looks pretty straightforward to me, Nick. Good job.
Catherine?
Nope.
You know, I read through, I spent a lot of time. One of my favorite things in life to do is read financial reports. I love it. which is, yeah, it usually drives people insane, Jim.
You're
But I'm a numbers guy, and I love numbers and stuff, and look through this stuff. So I spent about 4 hours on this over the weekend. Most of it I already knew anyway, but I just wanted to get refreshed on it.
Yeah.
And I really like the job that our team in the finance department's doing. They're doing a terrific job. Mary's leadership and Sarah's leadership as well, and the help of Sue and others down there has been terrific. But I really appreciate this very concise and well-written document in there. So thank you very much for the
Yeah,
presentation.
absolutely.
And I guess, let's see, do we need to have some kind of just a matter of accepting this? So I would.
Need a motion for that,
Yes, I
Mr.
think
Mayor?
so, for we can accept this.
I would move to accept the City of Moscow audited comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2016 as presented.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Jim and a second by Catherine to accept the City of Moscow audited comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year 2016 as it was presented this evening. I'll start the roll with Walter.
Aye.
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 Thank you very much
All right.
for your
Well,
presentation.
and if you allow me, I'd just like to echo your sentiments as far as your staff in working with them. It's fantastic. They do a great job, and we enjoy working with them, and we don't have any issues as far as getting information. And as an auditor, that's one big boost to the work that we do is when we get somebody who knows what they're doing and does it well and is willing to work with us. So
Well, Nick, and
we appreciate it.
we appreciate the job too, and our citizens deserve the transparency in what we do with our financial reports. That's very important for all of us.